Disclaimer, classes in Trove are built very much the same, so if you have watched any of my other build guides, then there is quite a lot of things that will repeat itself, but you can bypass those parts by the timestamps in the description. Also, my guides are always updated, so if I was to stop doing YouTube, those guides would go away. No misinformation will be out there, and I will always update my videos/guides if something major happens to the game content. If something minor changes, it will be in the description. Hello guys, Wahoo here, back on the video. This time around, we are doing a build guide for
Tomb RAISER.
Yeah, so the intro is going to be very much the same as if you've seen it before. You can skip ahead to maybe the demo or something else. But yes, the intro is going to be different just with which class we are going to do. Basically just telling you, if this is your first time watching one of these build guides, what you can expect from the video. So as you can see right here, I did make it into chapters, also indicated by timestamps, which is in the description or on the video. And first we are going to start with a 5-minute demo, just showcasing the class, what abilities do it have. Kind of just showing off, not going into detail what they basically do, but just showing them off, and maybe that will interest you at making one of these classes one of your mains. After that, we are going to do a quick look at overall stats for every single class. So for this class that you're watching right here, we're going to do it for that one, and also in general we are going to talk about stats. For example, like crit hit and crit damage. That's going to be some generalization right there. And then we are going to move into gear and everything there's on the gear page. That is, of course, banners, allies, head, face, weapon, and also rings and food, emblems, flasks, so on. So everything there is in the gear page, we are going to go over that one as well. Then we are going to cover gems. Mostly we're going to cover the empowered gems, of course. We're also going to talk a little bit about the smaller ones, but mostly we are going to go into the big empowered ones, or the big gems, that is. And then for lastly, of course, as you can see right here on the screen, we're also going to talk about the star chart, or the talent tree, as I basically call it. So that's what the intro was all about, just letting you know what the chapters are and how it is going to work with the timestamp. So you can skip ahead if there's something you already watched. You can skip ahead to doing that, or you can basically watch it all if you feel like you want to do that. But that was the intro. Now we can jump into the demo. All right, let's take a deeper dive into the Tomb Raiser. Let's talk firstly about its ability. So it's a very much a summoner. If you played in the other games, you know, there's summoners, and this is the same thing as well for this one. As you can see, these ones that float around me, that is actually the souls that you are picking up. You get them by killing enemies, or just passively, they will, you know, just be there. You can also suddenly spawn these just by being in a world. They won't do that in Club Worlds, but randomly it will spawn a little minion that doesn't count towards these ones. These are also some of you are going to have. So if I right click here, you can see there I don't have any more around me, and these are now my minions around me. And we should, yeah, you can see now I'm starting to get, it's a little hard to see because they're in minions everywhere, but you can start seeing that I'm getting these floaty souls around me. Again, these should die off in just a minute. Now you can see I have basically 2 of them, and then I will also get a 3rd one passively. So you can have around like 4 minions, just like not going too crazy. But when you start killing enemies, you are going to get a lot more of these minions that you can have up to 6 minions. And if you then, you know, if the enemies doesn't, you know, are not died out as they did there before, and you use your abilities again, or you kill more, they will actually turn into purple ones. They have basically the blue bar, you saw that one. They will turn into purple ones. Those do more damage, and they also last for longer, so it doesn't waste it, but you can't like have just on top of the, like when they turn purple, they're basically dead. It's undead, I know, but the point is that they will not, you can't just refresh them all the time, they will, you know, die out, and then when you respawn some other ones, they will then be blue, and then you can turn them to purple, and then they will stay purple until they die, and then you will spawn fresh ones and stuff like that. So that's basically how it all is, and this is the one you have where you you know, consume all your souls that you have, and you can see some same thing here. This is the passive that gives you the souls, and also gives you that one that just spawns randomly when you're standing in a world. And then when you are going to attack, you are basically just going to attack with your abilities, and then you just pop off your you know, your minions. I think I can maybe spawn one more, yeah, there, but it takes a little while. They will probably die out before I get them to be in purple. But yeah, that's basically how it is with the small minions. Then you, of course, you also have your Banshee's Boon, and because I have the Clash Gym that I will actually talk about right now, because it doesn't really, it's not a crazy thing, but it does actually do quite nice damage. I'll show you guys, it's pretty easy to show you guys. So when I have the passive, or the, not the passive, but the what's it called, the Banshee's Boon, the little minion, the little ghoul there, it heats up all your energy, and you can't really have enough energy regen to kind of counteract that. So it's basically your energy regen, basically, it does kick in before that, but it drains it so fast that you can't really, you know, counteract that. It's basically, it's all about, you know, getting that energy regen back when you are, you know, going into that. But as you can see, I summoned this Banshee that has that thing around it. And also I do turn, it's kind of hard to see, but I actually do turn right here. I do turn ghostly, and that's actually, you take 90% less damage when you do so. But yeah, that's basically what you do with it. And I can just quickly take off the Clash Gym here. I can show you again. And as you can see, this is what it is right now. It doesn't really do anything at all. So the Clash Gym is very kind of important if you want to use this Banshee. It is a little bit, it's not insane damage compared to, at least how I feel. Like it's much easier just to have your minions and then summon your big guy, which I can just hit there. You can see, well, he's not that big right now, but he gets bigger depending on how many you know, minions you have. And it cannot turn purple, or actually I think it can turn purple, but the point is, you just want to get as many minions you can, then spawn this guy. And before, as I think I remember the Tomb Raiser being before, is that when you had your minions, right, and then you spawned your guy, it actually consumed all the small guys as well, as far as I remember before the rework. The rework is a few years back now, so I can't really remember. I just remember how it is now. So that's how the Tomb Raiser basically works with its abilities. You just want to kill as many things you can, you know, spawn those small minions as many as you can. You get as many souls as you kill enemies, you know, and then you can also just hit your number 1 ability, hit your number 2 ability, and just like have all your minions defeat everything. And you can also attack around, and it does heal you a little bit, but it's not compared to what the minions do of damage, right? So that's our abilities. Let's talk about some stats here. So for the Tomb Raiser, we are a magic damage user. Also, your minions do magic damage. So you want to get as much magic damage as you can, of course. That is a given. Energy regen is kind of nice, but it's not something you want to go like completely out of, because again, you can't really counteract the you can do that with a potion. You can really basically refill it all and have it going if you do have, you know, an emblem that does that, but I wouldn't recommend that one, but that's really up to you if you want to use that one. Energy regen is pretty nice to get, so get energy regen, which where you would get, but you can get other things as well, like the Tomb Raiser, as you can see, do not benefit from attack speed, for example. So like movement speed is nice, attack speed usually is very nice, but for this one it's not. So if you can push in some, where you would put attack speed, you would put in some energy regen instead, and of course you want to go for that 100% crit hit. I'm over 16% over, so yeah, I need to get that one down, and then of course as much critical damage as you can get, and again as much light as you can also possibly muster is also very great to get. So this one, light, critical damage becomes very, like, becomes, I wouldn't say number one stat, but basically definitely number like 3 or 2. Of course, magic damage is always king. You know, you always do damage with this one. But having the crit hit, all your hits is gonna be crits, right? So then you do have 100% of this. If you had 0% critical hit, for example, like critical damage would do nothing and it would just be completely useless. But light, of course, is also, it's sort of light, and damage or magic damage is sort of the same, not the same thing in that sense, but the more light you have, the more damage you do, and the more damage, magic damage you have, also the more damage you're gonna do. But they kind of hold hands in a sense, right? Because if you have 0 light, you can have like 1 billion magic damage and you wouldn't really do much damage. This is also over dramatic. And the same thing if you don't have any light, but if you don't have any magic damage, but you have like 1 million light, you would never do any damage either, because again your magic damage would be that. So those kind of go hand in hand with each other, just like critical hit and critical damage goes hand in hand. Again, so you want to get a little bit of energy regen. If you can get it on a few items, you should do so. When you get a bunch of dragons, you know, if I have all dragons, you kind of end up around this one. I'm not really sure if I do have, I don't have energy regen on this one, so I could actually get a ring with energy regen instead. That would also save me 4% on my ring, but I think I just went with this one because I had it. I guess that's like I know. But yeah, you want to go with as much critical damage, as much light, and as much magic damage as you would love to do. So and critical hit 100%, and then get some energy regen is just kind of more a quality of life kind of thing to go with. So let's go over the gear. Let's start with the hat. Here I went with some stability. You can go with also max health if you want to do so. I also went with movement speed. Again, you can look for some energy regen if you want to do so instead of movement speed. I doesn't like it. Sure, it's not like it's melee, this class. It's not really like, it is kind of close to, you can see that the range is not that far. It just goes only the way out there, right? So it's kind of like, I would say sort of like a screen, half a screen-ish kind of way to go. So it's not really super ranged like some of the other magic damage users. Well, Draculite, for example, as well. But when you have like basically shoot all your stuff, you would say, and then, you know, you put all this, you are going to use, of course, your you know, attack, but it's really all your minions that are going to do the damage for this one. And it also, they had basically, you know, they seek enemies, so you don't really have to be running up to enemies. So movement speed is nice, but if you really want to do more damage, you want to get some more energy regen, because you want to get that one, that bar here, or this globe here, you want to get it as fast as max again, so you can hit this one and then do quite nice damage. And they also have this for a longer time as well. So you want to get this as you know, as fast as possible back again if you want to go. So but you can go with some movement speed. That's really up to you. You really don't want any, of course, any attack speed. Okay, so for our staff, I also went movement speed, critical damage. Of course, critical damage is just great on your gear. Stability is also quite nice, but I would rather probably go with some max health. I kind of just played around with some stability to see kind of how it was. This is not my main character, you know, so I'm just playing around with it a little bit, see how the stability is kind of working. So yeah, it doesn't really matter which ones you go, but you should definitely get some energy regen if you can get that, or again, some movement speed if you want to do so. Then we go on to the face. Here it's kind of like two of the stats are 100% what you need. That's magic damage and critical damage. Those are 100% what you need. Again, movement speed can be played around with, depending on how you want to do so. I feel like I move pretty quickly, but when I do hit my mount, I'm gonna go even faster. And usually I use my mount more than I just walk around. So I don't really go so much for the movement speed. I'm not really sure why I went with so much movement speed, but I did. It's not bad at all because you are sort of short range. So if you want to get up in close to them, that's what you can do. But you do get souls again, and when your minions kill things, so you don't have to kill the things. As long as something dies, you are going to get souls, and then you can keep going. So you don't actually need to ever auto attack for that matter, as long as you're killing things fast enough, I guess, in that sense. But yeah, magic damage is something you really need on this one. So and of course critical damage is always amazing to get on a gear, because there's also a limit of stats you can get on it. So if you can get every stat, there'll probably be some other ones you probably want to go for. But movement speed is better than attack speed. Don't get any attack speed, of course. Then of course we got a ring. We just talked about it. Here you want to get maybe some energy regen because it's kind easy to get. But if you're fiddling around getting that 100% critical hit, maybe a critical hit ring is great to have on the backup, so just keep that around. This is only a level 1 ring, but of course you want to get a 4 one, that's of course, but depends on how that ring turns out and what hidden effects it gets as well. It could be a thing. Hidden effects are great in some cases, but I feel like they're very expensive, the hidden effects. I really never talk about the hidden effects because some of them are really great, and some of them are, not that great. There is the wiki. You can go to the wiki, you can just search for the hidden effects, and you can see every single hidden effect for all the classes, and you can decide if you want to get some of them. But in my case, if I get a Crystal 4 ring on a character, I don't really care about the hidden effects. It would be great if I get like the best ones of them for some of the class. Some of them have one of them that's really good. I think some of them also have 2, and some of them have 0 hidden effects. That was great. So don't throw out a ring that's Crystal 4 if it has like the worst hidden effects ever. But rather just keep it if it has the good stats. The magic damage, the light is of course that you cannot change, but of course the third stat can change. And we hoped in the way back, we hoped that you could actually like reroll rings, but they did not make that. So maybe in the future we'll get that. But yeah, it could be cool if you could do that, so you could actually get a Crystal 4 ring and don't have to keep making them. But I think based on the system and kind of how easy it is to get a Crystal 4 ring, there wouldn't be no sink, a resource sink for all that stuff we get through the crystal rings. But anyways, enough about that. Let's talk about the banner. Here you want to get a U10 banner. Doesn't really matter what stats you get on them. There's a bunch of them. You can get what you really want for like movement speed or flash capacity or whatever. But you just, of course, pick the one that has, of course, the magic damage. That's the one you want. It doesn't matter really what the other stats you get. It's really up to you what you feel like for your class. You want to go for here. There's not a big significant in the stats that you can get on the banner, except for like the damage and the light. The damage and light is always there. You cannot change those, so that's just a given. But I'm talking about like the third and the fourth stat, of course. Those doesn't really matter which ones you get. It's really about up to you which one you want to get. So of course we got the Orchid ally here. Gives some movement speed when you kill some enemies, and that also works for your minions. So when if your minions kill something, you get the movement speed as well because it counts as you. So it just doesn't really have to be you that does it. But the main thing we want here is of course the light and the 25 magic damage. And as you can see, it's right down here. It's from the Paragon one. There is also Star Chart that gives you some of the other ones. You can see this one also has cooldown reduction, but we don't really need any cool reduction for this as well because again, the number 1 ability is based on your energy regen. Of course, the number 2 do have, you can see here, it does does have a cooldown, but it's not that long of a cooldown. You basically have it up all the time if you want to do so. So you really don't want any energy regen. But if you don't have this one, this is a lot easier to get, I feel like, than the Star Chart ones. But yeah, so this is I would just recommend you getting this one. But if you have something else, go at least with one that has light and has magic damage on it. 25% is what is max right now, but it might change in the future. Yeah, these are all the same, already 400 light. That's what we want to get. So let's talk about flask, which is the death-defying flask. You can use any flask you really want here. The Tomb Raiser, again, doesn't rely too much on like cooldown reduction, so I don't really want to talk too much about the other flasks. You just want to go with a death-defying. Again, you can go, let me see, this one, if this has a chance on recovering a charge when you deal a critical hit. So if you don't have 100%, not all your hits is going to have a chance. So it's not like guaranteed if you have 100%, for example. If you have 100% critical hit, it's not guaranteed to give you a charge every time you hit something. Really nice, but the rate is kind of low, I feel. So, but there's one that has a little bit higher rate. That's, of course, this one that gives us a chance to get a charge whenever our magic find triggers. Of course, that requires to have a lot of magic find to actually make it pretty good. It's around 8,000 or something like that. I've heard, I haven't tested it out, but it's around 8,000 you need for it to trigger kind of regularly, but it's not going to be again 100% chance just because you have a lot of magic find, but it's going to be up there. So if you really want to get like, I feel like in the long run, it's less RNG to have this one if you have 100% critical hit, if you really want to get charges back. But on the downside is that these ones is of course ones you have to use yourself. You can't just rely on the auto use of the Death Defying. So usually get Death Defying, it's pretty easy to get. You know, you get it in the store for in-game currency. So it's something that everybody basically gets. It's not mandatory in that sense. I never want to say something is like mandatory in that sense, which I'm probably going to say in a little bit anyways, but the point is Death Defying is pretty nice and super easy to come by, and you don't have to worry about it, you know, dying. There is some one-shot mechanics in the game that can one-shot you, even though you have Death Defying and you have all the flash charges and stuff, but if you run out of flash charge, of course you're going to die if you don't look there, but the point is, there's very few things that can kill you if you have Death Defying, so just have the Death Defying on there as well. And speaking of mandatory, let's talk about emblems. And emblems, I've said this in many videos, I'm going to say it in every single video as well. Arcane and the Martial Emblem. I call it the Martial Emblem. I know it's called something else, but basically it's the magic damage emblem and the physical damage emblem. And as you can see, it deals 250% extra magic or more normal magic damage for 3 seconds. So as you can see, if I go to my stats, you can see my magic damage right there. Let me use one of these. I almost hit 1 million magic damage just by using this one as well. And of course, it's only when you use a flash charge, and of course, the more flash charge you have, the more you can use it. But the point is that you can refill these, and when you get to the end game, as I have, my Dracolite has like almost 30 charges. It has 29 charges now, and I think I'm gonna get a few extra. I think I'm gonna end on like 33 charges or something like that, and I could get way more from the star charge. You can get way more, but it's not really necessary depending on what you do. If you're really bossing, then flash charges is great because you can get that. Like, yes, I have this much magic damage right now, but when I used that, I almost had 1 million, which is pretty crazy. And of course, this is not completely maxed out. That's of course my Dracolite, and I actually don't know, which I'm actually going to be a little bit curious on what I have, if I do have it. I have 700,000, and if I was supposed to use my flask, I hit 1.7 million. 1.7 million magic damage for this one as well. So that's not too shabby when you get there up in the big numbers in the end game, right? So for the other emblem, I used the bountiful one that has a chance of not consuming a charge when you basically use your flask. So when you self-use, you can actually see it didn't actually trigger that time. That was actually pretty nice for the video. I was actually hoping it was going to do that, and that time it didn't trigger, but sometimes it triggers, and that means that I get my flash charges. I basically don't consume a flash charge, but it also works on self-use, and it is also on a trigger. Basically, when this trigger, it has a chance to not consume this one as well. Let me just refill this one. So that's basically how it works. That's why I used the bountiful. You can use a few other ones. You have this one where it basically temporarily uses your energy regen. So when you could do a thing where you let me use this one as well. There's also one that fills up your energy regen, and it fills up all your energy at the same time. But you could do a thing where you know, hit your #1 ability, let it drain, and then actually also use your potion, and that's gonna increase your energy regen. You can see right here, I had it at like 170. Let me see, it's still, is it, let me see if it still is doing it. No, there you can see 190 was it, and you can see when I use it, you can see it goes up to that. So you could use a thing like that if you really want to do so. If you don't want to use the bountiful, that is a thing. You could also use the one, this one that restores all your energy at one time, but it's really up to you what you want to use for that one. There's also this one that it regenerates energy for all nearby allies, but that's more of a group thing. So my guess is always to use the bountiful. That's at least my, depending on which one you have, doesn't really matter too much as long as you have the arcane or the physical damage or the magic damage emblem. That's really, the other one is sort of one you can play around with. There is the allies you can have. I'm not a big fan of the allies. They do good damage, but I feel like they're kind of like, if basically they have a duration like 10 seconds, right? But if they have to run around for the boss for 5 seconds sometimes, because the boss can move around, some of the bosses at least, then, you know, it doesn't really get, you know, the full, you know, effect out of the ally. So I'd rather just have something that benefits me, that I can control more. I know the bountiful has a chance. It's not something I can control, but it just feels like I can control it better than I can do an ally from my flask. So let me talk about the Sure Strike real quick. If you are under 80% critical hit, you can use the Sure Strike to give you that 20% extra. I can actually use it, and if I use my flask, which I can't right now because I just need it to cool down, you can see there, now I got up to 130% critical hit. You can see there, so it's gonna go up if I do use that one, and you get a little red circle around it. It does last for 10 seconds, which is a really, really long time. So it bypasses, you know, the time that you have this one up. So it actually have it there for a very, very long time. So let me actually go back to the bountiful, but that only really works when you are under 80%. When you get to over 80%, it basically becomes worse and worse and worse until you get to that 100% that you do have. So yeah, that's basically the different emblems we can. The last thing we should talk about right before here, and I didn't talk about it very much because it doesn't matter too much. Well, we just talked about flask capacity, is of course our subclass, and I go with the knight extra, you know, flash charges is really, really nice. You can go with also with the Solarian, but it's a little bit hard to get. The knight is really easy to get because you get it as a starter class, so it's a lot easier to come by than the Solarian, for example. But the Solarian is, I would say, if you're bossing, for example, this could be a lot better than this one. The Tomb Raiser is not really a bossing class, it's more of a farming class, I would say. It can be used for bosses, but I would rather take a lot of other classes, or it sounds a lot, but I would take a significant more classes as a bosser than I would ever take the this would be like 10th or something like that as a bosser, but really nice for farming. It's just really nice to jump into the dungeon and just jump in and go to wherever you need to be at the boss or at the skull and just pop your things and then just go like this and boop, and then you basically have killed everything, and then you can move on to the next one, as you probably saw in the demo as I did it there. So yeah, the knight class is pretty nice, but you can use whatever subclass you really want to. It doesn't really matter which one you really use, but the knight I think is very superior to the rest of them. So if you have this one unlocked and you have it at a decent level and a decent power rank, you should definitely use this one. But other than that, use the one that has the most levels and then most power ranked and so forth. That's always going to be the ones to give you most power. But when you end up having everything at level 30, for example, and also above like a 30%, I was about to say 30,000 power rank, you should pick the knight as your subclass. That would be my choice at least. So lastly, we should talk about our gems, and we got our gems right here. There is basically a little bit of, doesn't really matter which ones you use here. Of course, the class gem, we talked about this one because you do want to get that Banshee minion as around you. So that does a lot more damage, and that circle around there does a lot more damage for sure. So you should definitely get the class gem. That's really the only gem you really want to use. You can go for a pyro disc as well because you are melee, sort of. You're in a cloak, kind of. You're always gonna be. You always kind of jump into the fray, if you could say it like that, because you want to get your minions as close to the enemies as possible. And they're not like the super fastest guys in the world. Like, of course, they do follow you, but you can see when I stand still here and I kind of move, it takes a while for them to move around. So they're not the smartest guy in the world. They're also undead, I guess, so they're not the super smart guys. I don't know. So a pyro disc can make you move a little bit faster and then get to the, you know, bosses or whatever you want to get closer to a little bit faster. It does do a little bit of damage to the pyro disc, but it's not something significant. But I guess everything helps, right? But again, you're also going to be quite close up to it, so it's going to actually do a damage to it. For your last gem, you want to go with an explosive. I don't know why I have volatile, but it's probably because I just didn't have anything else back in the day. But again, you want to go with critical damage, critical hit, and then magic damage on all your gems. And you want to go for the same always with this one. And then you can regulate when you do get up to crystal gems. And you can regulate how much you actually, that's why I haven't done anything. I just have them all at the same thing at critical hit, critical damage, and magic damage. I just have all of them for this because, again, I haven't regulated this one. If I did, you know, I would probably move some of them over to, you know, max health or max health percentage because that actually do benefit me. Critical hit is way better than anything about health. In Trove, people, you know, because we have Death Defying, we build every class as a glass cannon because we basically don't die unless we like have one-shot mechanic or we run out of flash charges. So that's how we build our classes in Trove. But these 16% doesn't benefit me at all. So these 16% is basically dead to this build, right? And it will only be more when I get into crystal gems. So some max health percentage or flat max health is just a little bit better. You be a little more tanky. Not that it really matters. You can't really out-tank anything in Trove. I guess you can if you really would go for it, but you really would do no damage, I would presume. But yeah, you want to go for these ones as well. So just go for critical hit, critical damage, and then regulate when you get further into the game and just get around that 100%. But it's better to be a little bit over 100% than under a little, you know, 100%. So for the last gems we do have is, of course, the cosmic gems. And for your cosmic gem, you want to go with the vampiric. You can go with anything. You can also go with the battle berserker if you want to, if you really want to min-max your light. But because it do give you extra light as a buff when you do you know, attack things, you do get a buff from that. But you don't get anything out of the attack speed that you do also get with the battle berserker. So if you really want to min-max, I would go with the battler. But if you're just going to use it for farming, which usually most people do, I would go with the vampiric. Or you can go with anything you really want here because yes, again, the vampiric is going to heal you when you attack. I'm not sure it works on the minions, but again, it's not going to be that much healing actually coming out of it, I would assume. But again, I would probably, if you have a battler, you just use the battler and then get that extra light. Even if you're not really bossing, just go for the battle berserker. If this is going to be your main, I would definitely go with the battler just to get that extra light because that's what is going to really help you in the end. And of course, you want to go with critical damage and magic damage. And then put all your extra stats into light. Always put your extra stats into light in this one as well. So just use all those and put them into the light. If you know, you know, right? That's basically the thing, right? It's basically, maybe it was a silly thing to actually say right there, but you know, if you see your gem forge here, you can see I put everything into light, all these extra stats. So when you get to level 5, 10, 15, you get extra boost, and these are the extra boost, and then you just move them into light for these ones as well. You can see I put them all into light actually. Even these are not perfect. I always put them into light just to get as much light as I can to, it doesn't cost very much and it just makes it just way better. So yeah, when you get to have it 3 stats at 5, 10, and 15, you get extra boosts, and yeah, you are going to put them in there. The other one doesn't really matter as long as you don't put them into the critical hit. Doesn't really matter too much. You can put it into the magic damage. I would rather, you know, make more classes better, and in the end, of course, if you play for a very long time, you can make them all perfect. But doesn't, as long as it's not in the critical hit, I say it's gonna be fine. You are going to do the content there is. You only really need one class that is min-maxed. And maybe it is the Tomb Raiser, then you should look into that. Then I would recommend, of course, my Draco guide, because that one is maxed out. But that's all there is to the Tomb RAISER. Very fun class. I really like how it is, and I really like the minions. I always love summoners, and this is definitely a summoner. But we're not done yet. We should talk about the star chart as well, because we're going to get a bunch of power out of that one as well, and that's coming up right here. Alright, first up we got the magic damage tree. I sort of gave them all names, and this is the magic damage path, as I call it. And out here is where there's red circles. This is where there is going to be some you might want to get really, you know, those that you really want to go for. The green ones are okay, but kind of there's not really anything between them. There is a little bit down here, but there's really nothing between them. These two over here are red because there's two great good nodes over here, and could be a path that you want to go after you go through the basically the magic damage part, and then also the critical damage part as well. And you really want to go down here because there's also like a 15 damage right down here in the bottom. If you can see it right down there, there's a 15% magic damage, which is pretty crazy as well, because you do have to go out either this way or this way after. Over here is the magic find and the kind of the magic find an XP path, and that's okay as well. You do need those, you know, XP for if you're leveling up or doing Paragon and stuff like that. But the red ones are sort of mandatory for a magic damage. You can go whatever you want if you want to do so, but these are definitely the node that increases and has some impact as a magic damage user. So as you can see, you can also pause the video if you want to and just kind of check all the things out if you want to do so, which ones are you should go for and which ones are pretty nice to have, but it's not really a lot of good nodes leading up to it. So if you had, let's say you could get all the nodes, or at least everything, all the green ones and all the red ones, then you should definitely also go for the green ones as well. The green one up here has some magic attack speed. That's why it's up here. Usually not many, magic damage users, like for example, Dragonlight, don't use, attack speed, but like a Gunslinger or is Ice Age, for example, those use it. So that's why it's up here. But there might be some a little bit better notes down here, and if you I'd rather have 15% magic damage than like a little bit of attack speed, because it's not really a lot of attack speed you get out of this node here. And there's some good ones in between as well if you want to get those as well. But basically you want to go through all of the magic. So yeah, this is the damage, magic damage part, if you can say it like that. But this is what I think at least you should be aware of these nodes. That's it for the video. Click the video on screen that's coming up right now. YouTube thinks you might like it. Also check out the description for all my ultimate guides that goes into more specific things in Trove. And also hit that like button, would help me out very, very much. Also consider subscribing. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.